Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us tonight at our first ever community virtual event. I'm Thelma Sabi, and I am the communications manager here at Dance Loft on 14. Tonight, you'll be hearing from Diana Movius, our founder and executive artistic director, as well as other artists and members of the Dance Loft community, as you see here on the panel. And you also have the opportunity to ask questions at the end using the chat feature in your Zoom box right on the right-hand side, and also hear about our upcoming events coming up. Please feel free to ask as many questions as you want. I am here to answer questions as well as Emily as well, and Tom. Tonight, we're gonna get started right away, and I will pass it off to Diana.
Great, thank you so much, Thelma, for that kind introduction. Again, my name is Diana Movius, founder and executive artistic director of Dance Loft on 14. I've prepared a slideshow for you, so I'm just going to take a moment to share my screen and pull up the PowerPoint. Okay, so hopefully you see our title slide there. So what we'll be doing tonight is doing our quick project overview for those that might be new to the project, but really focus on the floor plan of the new Dance Loft space and what that will mean for both our mission as well as the programming that we'll be able to do in the future. So how does this look in terms of an outline? Again, a quick introduction, discussing our vision of greater arts access, regardless of age, location, or income, or other factors, talking about the art space crisis facing DC. Then we'll get to the floor plan unveil. Then we'll talk about how the floor plan will affect our programs, rentals, residencies, performances, and education. Lastly, we'll talk about how to get involved, and then get into question and answer, which you can do through the chat, as Thelma mentioned. So first, what is our vision for arts access? Dance Loft has a mission to improve arts access and catalyze new performance works. Building on our successful track record of arts engagement, both in Ward 4 and throughout the metropolitan DC area, we're really excited for how this project can improve arts access going forward. The new building will enable greater access to the arts by artists, by neighbors, by students alike, and also serve as a cultural anchor in the community. To talk a little bit more about the arts access portion, we're going to look at the very interesting and novel part of our project, which is that we are combining art space with affordable housing. To do that, we have selected esteemed green building and affordable housing developer Heleos, and Chris VanArsdale, one of the principals of Heleos, is on the call tonight. Heleos and Dance Loft have worked together to purchase the Dance Loft site for the past 2 years, and we closed on the site, I'm happy to say, in April of 2021. Pretty cool thing to be able to accomplish in the midst of a pandemic. Since then, we've been working closely with Heleos on both the program for the building, as well as what the Dance Loft space will look like. One of the things I'm really excited about in this partnership is that most of the housing that will be above the Dance Loft space will be affordable. This will be 75% of the units, so roughly 75 out of 100. And this will be at 30%, 50%, and 60% of area median income. So that means that the 30% units will be considered deeply affordable, which is really exciting and badly needed in the district. But at the same time, 50% and 60% of area median income are badly needed affordable units as well. Another exciting feature of the new building that is particularly meaningful to me as someone who spent a lot of time in the climate change community is that the building will be net zero energy. And in fact, Dance Loft will be DC's first net zero performing arts center. So really excited about how this project is essentially melding of art space, affordable housing, and green building, enabling DC to achieve many of its goals related to housing affordability, climate resiliency, and art space. So before we move on to the floor plan, I'll just take a quick moment to note that the bottom, as you're looking at the screen, the bottom right portion will be Dance Loft, and then Dance Loft will extend into the back. So this means that Dance Loft will be actually on the first floor, So technically no longer a loft, but being on the first floor has a number of benefits that we'll get to later. Similarly, in our discussion of accessibility, there's the issue of accessibility to the neighborhood. Right now, one of our challenges is that we're on the second floor. We don't have a great connection to the streetscape. We're kind of hidden behind the sort of Jerusalem furniture, big kind of front gate that you see there. And clients have to go up a long staircase to get to Dance Loft. There's no ADA accessibility right now. In the future, the building plans that Heleos and Dance Loft have worked on include a street front facing studio that can open up. And so this creates a great opportunity for public events where the public can enjoy dance, professional dance performances, dance classes, but at the same time, it's also safe, meaning that dancers won't have to dance on the sidewalk. We can create a space that protects dancers' needs with a sprung floor. It's also pandemic proofed in that we can have audiences be outside as needed. One of the exciting things is that it also is ADA accessible. We'll talk about this a little bit more during the floor plan, but being on the ground floor creates a lot of accessibility that we currently don't have. So looking next to the floor plan itself, I'd like to take a quick moment just to say that in addition to a housing affordability crisis, the DC metropolitan area, and in particular DC itself, has an art space crisis. We have lost many art spaces due to COVID and or rising rent, in particular spaces that are appropriate for dance, where people can rehearse and perform in the same space. I've done my own back of the envelope calculation and hope to formalize this analysis soon, but per my calculations, at least 5 theaters and 7 dance studios have closed since 2015, which is the same year that Dance Loft opened. So compounding the crisis is that due to this lack of space, there are just simply not enough space types that fit the needs of all artists. For example, some artists need Marley floors, some artists need hookups for aerial arts, some artists need hardwood floors for percussive dance. There just aren't enough dance studios that have these features. Similarly, due to the space crisis, we have a lack of a diversity of dance classes that can appeal to different constituencies, reflect different cultures, and really kind of grow and catalyze a diverse dance community, and support the one that we have, but allow it to grow into the future. And then lastly, to that point, Ward 4 has historically, before Dance Loft opened, lacked the arts infrastructure of other wards. So Dance Loft is really filling that niche of being the flagship performing arts center in Ward 4. So hooray, we're at the studio unveil, and we're gonna take this piece by piece. The first area we'll focus on are the studios themselves. So in the light blue, as you're looking at the screen, over the top and a little bit to the right, you'll see 4 dance studios. These range in size from 30 by 30 all the way to 35 by 45, so quite large studios, and we're looking at a mix of amenities within those studios, including different flooring types, soundproofing, sprung floors, etc. So let's give you a quick moment to look at this. The studio on the top right is the one that we showed in the opening slide that can open out onto 14th Street. And then the Dance Loft suite goes back all the way to the purple section, which we'll get to later. So here's just a few images, sort of a mood board, if you will, of our future space, as we don't have detailed 3D renderings yet. These are 2 of our studios now. On the left is Studio 4, on the right is Studio 3. These have historic features, including some gold painted filigree and medallions. At the same time, if you've spent time in the studios, you'll know that those filigree elements often shed little bits of plaster dust and paint, and so we are having to clean up quite a bit because our building is old. Similarly, we have challenges keeping the temperature consistent, and because it is such an old building, we spend quite a bit on utilities, and that's another reason I'm really excited for having a net zero energy building. Just having an energy efficient dance space will dramatically help with the temperature regulation in the studios. So again, a mood board of what this can look like in the future. We're planning for the studios to have lights, high ceilings, and windows that are along the top of the studios. So if you imagine almost an English basement situation where you might have a 5-foot window at the top, right next to the ceiling, as opposed to sort of in the middle of the wall. That's the look that we're aiming for most of the studios, except the street front studio would have floor to ceiling windows. And again, we're hoping that with this broader number of studios that we have and having them tailored to different styles, we'll be able to invite artists of many different disciplines into the space. One of the second studio programs we have, in addition to offering studio rentals for many artists, is our relatively new social justice dance residency. We've been providing a handful of artists working at the intersection of dance and social justice with free studio space. Currently, this is a 1-year program. In the future, with our new building, we're looking into having this be a multi-year program to support artists that are pioneering work. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Brian Wright to speak for just a few minutes on his experience being a studio renter and user at Dance Loft.
Thanks, Diana. I would just like to add that, you know, what we do is martial arts training, and it's not dance per se. It's not dance at all, but there's a lot in common. The needs of the arts community and the needs of the martial arts community are basically the same in terms of floor and consistent space and studio space. And also, it's the kind of thing that takes a long time to become proficient at. So consistent space is super important for us. And I think this whole, you know, build out with the affordable housing and green element and everything is really suitable and really kind of fits what we're doing, in the sense that you know, at its core, martial arts training is really about self-defense. But people, when they hear that, they think, oh, it's like, you know, putting fist and face on the metro or something like that. It's not that at all. It's really about, you know, how to prepare yourself to face life's challenges. And, you know, being surrounded by people who are, you know, putting their time into perfecting their, you know, art of choice, and also in a facility that's trying to do right by the community and the world, you know, with the green element, that's super important and really kind of gives us the right, you know, it's the right vibe for somewhere that you want to make your training home. So we're looking forward to it. And so far we've appreciated all these years anyway, you know, despite like the flaky ceiling bits and, you know, cold floor or whatever, it's still been a, you know, it's a great place to come into. But renovations are in order, and that'll make it even better.
Thank you so much, Brian, for sharing that perspective. I will note that in addition to Brian, you know, we have many other companies and individual artists and teachers that rent Dance Loft studios to create their own choreographic work, to do training in their movement art of choice, to teach little ones. So it's really a vibrant community that we have, and being able to have even more studios will only enhance that. So moving on to the theater element of the floor plan. So as you're looking at the screen, this is the purple part on the left. We currently have at Dance Loft one large studio that doubles as a theater. And one thing we've learned is that we've hosted dance performances as well as theater performances. Theater meaning, you know, the dramatic arts, and theater and dance theater actually need different things out of a performance venue. And so one of the things we're excited about here is that we have a main theater, which will be mostly proscenium style, that will be designed particularly as a dance theater. Separately, we'll be able to have a small experimental black box theater that will be tailored to theater companies, but also will be suitable for dance artists that see kind of a more experimental and intimate venue. And then they'll be able to share backstage amenities, bathrooms, dressing rooms, etc. One thing that's not shown here is part of a second floor level, which will consist of dressing rooms and tech booths. We're excited to have a little bit more space for those in the new space. And then one thing to mention for both the theater and the dance studios is that we'll have 20-foot ceilings, which is really exciting. That enables a whole bunch of different types of movement arts. It means that if you're doing a lift or using a prop, there's no danger of running into the ceiling. For performances, it also allows more the availability of prop and scenery and things like that. So really excited about the opportunities that the new theater will bring. So just a quick sort of now versus future. On the left, we have a performance by Katie Saposi-Drake of Space Time Dances. On the right, we have a picture from Dance Ethos. We were lucky to have both companies in our theater over the past few years. And our current theater is a very intimate venue. It's a great place to watch dance. At the same time, the ceiling is only about 12 feet high, and we don't really have sufficient space on either side for large props and things like that. So now we can seat about 100 people comfortably, 125 pushing it. That number has obviously gone down with COVID precautions, et cetera. So looking at the new space for the main theater, I would say, we're not looking quite as opulent as the drawing on the left, and maybe not quite as austere as the drawing on the right, but something in between that provides a nice proscenium viewpoint with some risers that are fixed, some risers that are movable, and creates nice sightlines for dance. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Nalini Prakash, who's experienced both the studio, practice, and theater elements of Dance Loft.
Thank you, Diana. And I'm so excited to be here and so excited to hear about this new project of Dance Loft. I am the co-artistic director along with Vijay Palapardi of Spilling Inc. We are a multi-arts organization based in Washington, DC. And our mission is really to create, perform, and present performing arts, visual and literary arts of India and the diaspora. So we've always been looking for space over the years for rehearsal space, for performance space, and spaces where we can show our artistry. And it was in 2016 that we heard about Dance Loft and reached out and asked about, inquired about renting the space for rehearsals. And we had a wonderful 2-year association with Dance Loft. And I think what really struck me and my dancers and all of us was the energy that the space had. We really felt, and then knowing that this space has housed the arts for almost a century, you could really feel that energy in that space. And the studios were, there was the dust that would fall, but it was part of, I guess it was part of the ambience of the space then. And I just think the other thing that we really appreciated was being exposed to different artists, meeting different artists, being part of the artistic community. There was so much diversity and it was so inclusive. So it just felt like home every time we came there. What we loved was the flexibility of booking. We had experienced in the past many times, you pre-book and then things happen and you can't make it, and so you cancel and then you are still charged. But with Dance Loft, there was always this wiggle room where you could, just say, I'm going to change the date. Is it okay? And it was so helpful for us as artists to have that flexibility of booking and if we needed to cancel. And the rent was so affordable with the membership. That was the other thing that we really appreciated. So and all of us, when we were talking about this, our dancers, and we're so excited that you've bought this building now and that this big project is coming up. And that it's going to be a green building and you're going to have affordable housing. And it's just exciting to know that this is going to happen soon in our district. So looking forward and wishing you all the luck. I've signed the petition, and if there's anything else we can do from our end, Spilling Ink, to help this project move forward, to let us know. We're just really excited about this for you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your insight and your experience at Dance Loft. So we'll move on now to the education programs. So again, looking at current versus future, I've showed you the floor plan. In our new space, we'll have 4 studios plus 2 theaters, whereas now we have 4 studios and one of the studios converts to a theater. So we'll definitely have a lot more space for classes. Right now and since Dance Loft has founding, we've really prioritized leaving the studios open so that artists can rehearse when they need to. And I think you heard Nalini talk a little bit about that, just with the flexibility of booking. We didn't want to be a place where the studios were constantly booked for classes. So what that has meant is that we don't have a huge array of classes. We mostly have Western forms of dance. I run a ballet company that is the parent company of Dance Loft, so we make our company warm-ups open to the public as one of our class offerings. We have also had a contemporary dance class as well as a world dance class, but with more space comes more opportunity. Oh, and I should also add that we are able to occasionally host workshops like the one you see on the top right, which was a classical Indian dance workshops, but it's not something that we're able to do with regularity now, just because we want to keep studios available for working artists. So in the future, when we have more studios available, we're hoping to have classes in many different styles. And so a few of the styles you see here, I'm sure there will be more that come our way. And as Thelma will note a little bit later on in the presentation, if you have ideas of classes you'd like to see, styles you'd like to see represented, just shoot us a note. We've got an email address, we've got an online form to send your ideas for the new space. But just noting that for the educational piece, having more studios will really allow a broader breadth of styles to be showcased. And over to you, Thelma, who's not only our marketing manager, but has also taught Afro dance at Dance Loft, and she'll be able to offer her perspective on dance classes.
Thanks again, Diana. Good evening again, everyone. I'm Thelma. I am the communications manager at Dance Loft, but I also have the privilege to run the adult programs moving forward. So prior to me coming and working at Dance Loft, I had the experience of coming in as a renter, and Dance Loft is a great place to rent. I was able to get rooms at an affordable rate, and my students also got to use the space as well for one-on-one sessions, and they became renters as well. So that was a great advantage of just coming to Dance Loft and seeing things on the other point of view. As Diana mentioned, it has been incredibly difficult in the DMV area to find great spaces and also space for people to just train all around. And especially now, since we're still in a pandemic, it has not gotten any better. So my job here at Dance Loft, and being the person who is charge of the adult programs, is to grow it. So currently we have 3 classes, as Diana mentioned, but I would love to grow it to 10 classes. So whether it's right now, we have the classical, we have ballet, we have contemporary, but I would love to grow it to not only just have classical dance forms, but also to have, whether it's heels, whether it's Afro, whether it's jazz, street jazz, you name it, I would love to bring it to Dance Loft. And that's not just our team's ideas, but with the help of you all, we can also make this happen as well. So I'm actually going to share a link right after where you all can send in the classes that you would like to see at Dance Loft so that we can make it happen. The goal is to always bring diversity to Dance Loft in terms of classes, but also people. So feel free to shoot me an email, send a suggestion, and also just stop by the office and say hi. I'm usually in the office. Thank you guys so much.
Great, thank you, Thelma. Thelma also put together this webinar, so also thank you, Thelma, for that. Next on education topics is, of course, youth education, which almost all dance studios have. I won't dwell too much here, but we have started a youth education program in the last few years. It's about 4 years old. Obviously, one of those years was the pandemic, so it's been growing a bit slowly. We started out with creative movement, pre-ballet, and now have an early childhood and young child ballet curriculum, as well as an emerging world dance program that focuses on dance from different areas of the world. So again, this is also a studio capacity issue, and as well as an issue of it being a relatively new program. But looking forward, we're hoping to have more styles of dance, a way to engage kids that might not be classically oriented in movement forms that they'll find exciting, engaging in movement forms that are culturally relevant. A lot of these will be opportunities when we have more space and when our space is also a little more kid-friendly. Without further ado, I will move to the bilingual in-school and after-school dance programming, which is one of our flagship programs, and you'll hear from the program manager of that in a moment. But in addition to the dance education for children that we have on site at Dance Loft, we work with 4 neighborhood schools that have a largely Spanish-speaking population to bring dance to those schools. These include McFarland Middle School, Powell Elementary, Spanish Education Development Center, John Lewis Elementary, and others. And since we started the program, we've been able to reach about 125 students per year. We're on track to double that this year, so up to 250 students this year. And with a larger budget, a bigger building, saving money on things like rent, because we own our building, saving money on utilities, we hope to be able to invest even more in these partnerships with public schools. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Carolina Hernandez, who is on staff at Dance Loft as the bilingual and youth programs manager, and as well as also running her own dance company and is an expert in numerous dance forms. So over to you, Carolina.
Okay. Hello. My name is Carolina Hernandez. I'm very excited about being here, about being part of Dance Loft. My experience in Dance Loft has been very, very positive. As an immigrant, it's always very important to have a place where people can open the doors, where you can put together what you have, not fitting in the mold, but also bringing your own experience from your country, from your life experience in another place outside of the United States, and take it here and put it together. So in bilingual program, it's very exciting to see these kids when they see a Latino person, when they see someone that speaks Spanish, and they see, okay, I belong here as well. So that's something I've been enjoying a lot. Also, as an instructor, my experience in Dance Loft has been very positive in the way that I brought my own dance journey and my own dance experience. I am a multicultural dancer. I focus on studying and researching about cultures from around the world. And I do it through dance, but the goal is to learn about the culture per se. So now we have this opportunity, this amazing opportunity where I can teach to kids. It started with kids, and I can teach to the kids different dances. Like, for example, today we are traveling to India. India is located here in the map. So we are going to do these dances, and these are the cultural aspects of these dances. So kids are having the opportunity to open their eyes outside of the little bubble and understanding that, okay, we are part of the world, and we can learn, enjoy, and appreciate the world, and we can do it through dance. So that's another beautiful experience I have had in Dance Loft, bringing this program here. And it was been so successful that now the parents were the ones that asked me to have this class for them. So the parents now are part of the program as an adult program, and it's been growing. It's the same format, of course, adult oriented, but it's very beautiful to see how I found a place in Dance Loft where I could feel appreciated for who I am, where I could feel like appreciated from my experience, and where I could like I could support the organization from my own knowledge instead of saying, okay, you have to be this and this and this. No, what do you have for us? And how can we help you to grow? And how can we help you to keep your career growing in this country where you are just starting your life as a dancer and even as a person, because I've been here only 5 years, during 5 years. So I'm very thankful with Dance Loft as a teacher. I'm very thankful with Dance Loft as a person, having the opportunity to keep learning English, also having the opportunity to share my language, Spanish, and having the opportunity to grow as a professional. So I have, you come here, you learn and travel with me through dance, and bring your kids to learn to appreciate other cultures and to learn how to live through dance and to travel through dance to other cultures. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Carolina, for your perspective and bringing your amazing knowledge of dance around the world to Dance Loft. So I think I had budgeted about half an hour for the presentation, and we're almost done. So the last, one of the next elements that I wanted to discuss is my own dance company, Movius Contemporary Ballet, which is a professional ensemble. We have about 12 professional dancers, and in the year before the pandemic, we took the extraordinary step of putting all of our dancers on a part-time salary. With the fundraising and all that goes with having a new building, we expect to be able to improve the pay of our dancers, which I think is very important, that our artists are always compensated for their work, increase engagement with the community, be able to bring more performances, whether it's in-house in our new theater, whether it's in that street-facing studio that we saw on the first slide, but be able to bring more performances to the Ward 4 public. So that's just one way that having a new building will affect the lives of the group of dancers that I work with, but also hopefully bring the arts to a more accessible level in Ward 4. All right, one quick note, just as personally, as I mentioned, I've been involved in the climate space for a long time. With the dance company, my dance company Movius has had critical acclaim, in particular for my production Glacier, which is about climate change. So personally, it's very rewarding to be able to mix dance and having a net zero performing arts center in the same project. It just means a lot to me, and I'm really happy about it. Lastly, just here's a quick look at some of our clients and partners, as well as funders. You don't have to read through all the small text, but just to know that there are, as I mentioned, dozens and dozens of companies that rehearse at Dance Loft, hundreds and hundreds of independent artists and teachers that use Dance Loft for their own work. And we're increasingly being recognized by local and national funders for our work. So with that, I'll go ahead and wrap up. Just to let you know of a few upcoming events. We're having a Black History Month event at noon on February 26th. At March 5th, there's a Crossroads performance in our theater, which will be one of the first shows that we've had since the pandemic, which is very exciting. And that features a number of DC and metropolitan area choreographers. And then last but not least, May 5th is the Zoning Commission vote. So one thing that's, I think, important for everyone here to know is that the Zoning Commission has the ultimate say on whether our project proceeds. So they'll be looking at the many, many documents that Dance Loft and Heleos have provided over the years. They're all publicly available on the Zoning Commission's website. but the Zoning Commission will want to hear from you as to why this project should proceed. So on our website, you can go ahead and sign a letter of support, and you can get further involved if you're interested in helping spread the word about the project. Reach out to us at development@danceloft14.org. And lastly, here are the contact information for myself and our staff. So feel free to reach out to us further if you have any more questions or comments. And I think with that, I'll turn it back over to Thelma to MC the rest of the event.
Great. Thank you. There we go. Great. Now we're going to have Jane. Jane give a few points and announcements. And thank you, Jane, for joining us also.
Yeah, thanks, Thelma. And thanks, Diana, for an awesome presentation. I am Jane Rabinovitz. I'm here today in my capacity as a board member of Dance Loft. I've served on the board for a few years through the pandemic and have been in the conversations as we've gone through this decision to purchase the building. And now as we enter the phase of collecting and feedback and support and move this into the phase of reality. So I just wanted to share that for me personally, as an arts administrator in the community, as a dancer in the community, and as a board member of Dance Loft, I'm just really excited for the space. I've always admired that Dance Loft was a space not only for many dance forms, as you heard represented tonight, but also for the local theater community. I've seen puppet shows there, theater shows. We heard from Brian about the martial arts community. I know there's a big circus arts community who has been active at Dance Loft. It's just a unique space in that way in our city, and really just like excited for where we are in the process. It's not often that a new theater space with dance people at the forefront with dance in mind are building a new space and asking for feedback and looking for suggestions and questions, which is just exciting. So I just want to invite you to please ask honest questions in the Q&A function tonight. Please know that I, as a board member, am available to talk to you for questions or feedback that I can pass to the Dance Loft staff and leadership team. I know Diana is very open to feedback. Really, now is the time, so would love to just have this be an open conversation as we go forward the next few months. And yeah, just another pitch to please sign the letter of support for the Zoning Commission and let us know how we can serve you. We're here to be part of the community, and it's important to me that there's an open voice for feedback, so I hope I can be that if you're looking for someplace to share. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Jane. And I see that we have a few questions in the Q&A chat box. So Tom will actually be taking some of those questions and he will follow up now.
Thank you, Thelma. And thank you, Diana and Jane and all the other speakers. That was a really lovely presentation. I have to admit, I'm a bit biased. My role here today is based on my support for the arts community in Washington, D.C. The work I do is in art and music, and specifically shared experiences and dynamic events. I have a true belief in how these types of organizations really build and strengthen communities. So very excited about what's going on at the Dance Loft project. And with that, let's get into some questions. We have some good ones, and they're all good, and some informative ones. I know Thelma has dropped a couple of the some of the questions and the answers in the chat, but I'm just going to start from the top and kind of go down. Hi there, what upcoming events does Dance Loft have? Great question, and Thelma dropped that one in the chat. That's basically right on the danceloft14.org website at dance-loft-events, and you can click that right from the chat. I have another question. How can I make a class/new building suggestion? Well, you can leave all suggestions in this Q&A portal, and you can also use a link on the website to make suggestions, and that is at danceloft14, that's 14.org/suggestion. And I think Thelma put that one in the chat as well. She's nodding her head. Yep. We have a question. Yes.
Yes, I might quickly jump in on that and say apologies for not getting through all of my talking points in the presentation, but one of the goals of this meeting is to find out who's interested in vetting some of the floor plan designs and really weighing in on what amenities the dance loft space needs to have. So this could be something like, you know, I need a locker for my dance bag, all the way up to we need a soundproof studio. So all those types of things that make it a creative space, a space that you want to be in, a space that facilitates your artwork. We'd love to, if you're interested, if you want to provide feedback in the future, but don't have something to say right now, just let us know. We're hoping to kind of create a small, not even a small, just a group of names that we know are interested in kind of vetting the designs and being an ongoing thought partner.
Thank you. Next question, will the recording be distributed post-event? Yes, it will. Thelma, I think you can give a little bit more detail. I suppose the recording could be distributed to attendees, or it'll be posted perhaps on the Dance Loft website. Do you have any insight on that?
Yes, we'll have a follow-up email after the meeting, and you will receive it latest by tomorrow morning, and it will be the video.
Great, thank you. Another great question. And Chris VanArsdale has replied to it, but I'm going to read the reply, and then Chris, if you want to add anything additional, it'd be a great time to jump in. Question is, can you share the specific affordability / bedroom mix? Great question. People are often confused, as they should be, about the AMI, the percentages, what that really means and how that breaks down. Chris's answer says, the project will be truly mixed income, with approximately 2/3 of the units being affordable to median family income levels equally at 30%, 50%, and 60% levels. The remaining 1/3 of the units will be at 80% to market rate MFI levels. 20 to 25% of the units will be family-sized 3-bedroom units, which is a really important distinction, I think, when we're talking about affordability and not just being studio or 1-bedrooms. These are truly affordable family units. Chris, you could probably untangle a little of that a little bit more clearly, so feel free to jump in there.
Yeah, not much further to add there, but it's just the idea is to create a truly mixed income community, everything from 30% MFI or median family income all the way up through market rate. And so that it's, you know, each one of these income levels, approximately, you know, 20-25% of the building will be in one of those levels, 30%, 50%, 60%, and then 80% to market rate. So we feel like that creates income diversity and a much more robust community.
Excellent, thank you.
I might add to that, although it wasn't necessarily asked, but I think one of the reasons we're excited about housing affordability, in addition to what it can mean for the people that live there, also for the ability of artists to stay in DC if, you know, if they choose to apply for housing there, is that, you know, there's the potential to have programming where residents of the building can access Dance Loft programming. Maybe there's a free performance for residents once a month. Maybe there's a community class once a month. We haven't really fleshed out the details yet because it's too early in the process to do that. But having a mixed income building above Dance Loft presents those kind of exciting opportunities for arts engagement with the residents of the building.
Great. Next question. Can you talk about the parking? Always a concern. Good question. Chris answered, we understand parking is a major concern. We've doubled the amount of parking in our garage. And parking is currently being studied by a traffic consulting firm. And we are in active discussions with the District Department of Transportation to propose recommendations. This is clearly a very hot button issue with any development in any neighborhood. So, you know, I don't know if you want to go back to the drawing, maybe not. There is definitely a parking garage space that's there. Chris, do you want to add anything to the parking question? This is a popular one.
Yeah, and I guess I'd also invite Diana to talk a little bit about how parking currently is handled for events and so forth, but it is definitely an issue. It's always an issue whenever there's a development project. DDOT has a certain set of policies around parking, and there are a certain number of parking spaces required for the building. We actually, in some ways, are in between where DDOT wants us to be and where the immediately adjacent neighbors would like us to be in terms of parking in the garage space. DDOT, of course, has a policy of really reducing the number of parking spaces in the city, reducing the number of cars, and increasing the number of pedestrian trips, bicycle trips, scooter trips, car share, bus, metro, et cetera, et cetera. The policy is intended to create a much less car-dependent city. We also know that in many developments now, DDOT is eliminating parking altogether to rely on this, to create more dependence on these other forms of transportation. So we proposed a certain amount of parking. They actually said it was too much. They didn't want any more, but would still support us. So that's something that you can, any neighbors, of course, can reach out to DDOT to find out more about. We doubled the amount of parking that we initially went in with, and we're also willing to talk to the neighborhood about other kinds of parking restrictions, whether that's the residential parking permit. That's also subject to DDOT review, but we're in active discussions with DDOT. We also have a traffic consultant that's doing a parking traffic study, and we will, with DDOT, propose recommendations around those issues.
Just to add, I might quickly share my screen again. So one aspect I'm excited about for the parking, and I think, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, we're at least 40 units of parking, or 40 spaces.
That's right.
So you can see here, sort of below the blue dance studios and to the right of the purple theater, this is the parking area. So one thing that I'm looking forward to is that for people with limited mobility, for whom it might be difficult actually to walk in the entrance on 14th Street and walk all the way back to the theater, they could be dropped off right here where it says theater lobby. So not only is the building ADA accessible, this is not a formal term, I would say it's super accessible, because you can also attend a performance and sort of minimize the amount of traveling that needs to be done inside the building. Similarly, one of the things that's being studied by the traffic consultants is the idea of a drop-off point. So over here on the top right, where it says electrical vaults behind the dance studio lobby, there's potential to have a drop-off point there for students. So those are a few of the things that the traffic consultants are looking at that I think will help with flow of people in and out of the facility, and also the vehicular flow.
Great, helpful. One thing that I noticed in the plan also, which I think is an amazing addition to the design, is the bike room. Micro mobility, alternate modes of transportation, which are growing at an exceedingly increased pace in the city. Whether you love them or hate them, those scooters get people around town and don't cause parking congestion. So do bicycles. So the addition of that bike room, I think, is a really thoughtful add that, of course, addresses the community parking issues to a degree. We have another question regarding parking, adjacent, I should say. And it asks, what was the use of the building prior to Dance Loft, and was there parking for that use?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's a little bit unclear, but we've done as much historical research as we can over the years. Dance Loft was originally a movie theater in the 20s. It was put out of business by the Tivoli Theater at Columbia Heights, which I'm sure you all know that theater well. At some point, it was divided into 2 floors, which is why we have the old ceilings on our floor, and the unit below us has very industrial looking ceilings. I have heard that that it was a garage repair at one point, that it might have been a storage facility. Sort of the years in between 1980 and 1925 are a little bit unclear. We know that in the mid 80s, one of the previous tenants ran a thrift store as well as a martial arts studio out of the dance loft space and the unit below us. As to whether parking was part of those uses, I honestly don't know.
Great, thank you. Another great question. Can you talk a little bit more about how the building will be net zero and the energy efficiency systems? Chris, do you want to just address that, or would you like me to read your answer?
Either way is fine. I can it's a quick note, basically. Essentially, we will be utilizing innovative energy efficiency systems in the design and construction of the building. Then we'll be maxing out the solar capacity of the roof on site. We don't have there's really no other space except for the roof for solar on the site. And then to the extent that loads are not covered by on-site solar, we'll be utilizing off-site community solar. So that allows us to virtually net meter so that we can have off-site solar that is directed to our meter at the building. And the building will be all electric so that we can be a truly net zero. So there won't be any combustion or like natural gas or anything like that on site. It'll be all electric. But that's the basic strategy.
Thank you. I have another question here. I think it's a good one as well. How will traffic and potential increased traffic work in the space in the narrow alley behind the proposed development? And the answer here from Chris, and I'll just read it because I think it's pretty direct. The alley width at 14th Street will be widened in order to allow all traffic, including delivery trucks, to enter and exit at 14th Street. This will eliminate any additional traffic in the alley network. And continuing on.
I know we have a number of artists in attendance. Just wondering if any artists have any art-specific questions. I know parking is always a hot topic, but it would be nice to take advantage of those in the audience and your expertise.
We do have an arts related. Are the theater spaces available for rent and or community use?
Yes. Yeah, and we're hoping that there will be more of that because the theaters will have new equipment, hopefully equipment that, because of community input, serves the needs of a wide variety of artists and uses.
Fantastic. Let's see, another arts related. Can you talk a little bit more about your commitment to community classes? That's a pretty brief one, but maybe I can expand on that. Maybe it's talking about community dance loft in the community as opposed to at dance loft.
Yeah, that's a great question, and certainly invite Carolina to say more. The program that you heard Carolina discuss, especially with regards to teaching at Ward 4 public schools, is a core priority of the organization and part of our strategic plan moving forward. So our goal is to be able to offer dance classes at all the neighborhood schools that are within walking distance, which mostly include those that we're at already, but there are a few others that we're not currently teaching at, and to be able to offer classes to entire grades. So right now, one of the challenges is with the funding that we have. Sometimes we have to say, oh, well, we can only accommodate this many students. We'd like to be in a position to say, all of your 6th graders want to take bilingual dance, great, we can teach them all. And so that would require growing of Carolina's program, hiring more teachers that are bilingual, and working with the schools to create those time slots for the grades that they want to have dance classes.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I think you addressed that in your presentation as well with the partnerships with, I think, Powell and some of the other schools. So that's good to hear. Okay, we're coming up on 7:30 almost. I have one last question. I think is a great one to end on. Can you talk about the ownership breakdown between Heleos and Dance Loft 14? I think personally, for me, this is a really interesting, unique partnership, which serves as a model for the entire district to figure out how to maintain arts programming and focus without getting away from the original intent of Diana's concept school class theaters at Dance Loft 14. So Diana, you can answer that one.
Sure. The ownership breakdown is that Dance Loft is 51% of the partnership. So that means that we're the majority owner. And as you said, that is a unique model. Typically, developers don't necessarily want to partner equally with a nonprofit or a nonprofit arts organization. That's one of the things that's been really great about our partnership with Heleos, and I think signals the good intent and community mindedness on the part of the Heleos principals. One of the benefits for us is, in addition to being majority owner, we also get the benefit of Heleos' expertise. So Dance Loft is not put in the position of, for example, estimating construction costs for the building. That's something that Heleos does. That's something they know how to do. We are in the position of designing our own floor plan for our space and estimating the cost that we know how to estimate, which is how to build out a dance studio. So I think both in terms of the partnership model for the purchase itself, as well as a division of responsibilities going forward, it's really a great way to take advantage of expertise that exists in DC among actors such as the nonprofit sector and the development sector.
Great, thank you. We're at 7:30. I'm going to pass it back over to Thelma, our amazing MC for the evening, and let her wrap things up.
And I also just one quick note. I know that there are a lot of questions, like non-art related questions here, and we have had literally 10 to 12 formal public meetings have answered all of these questions about parking and building height and all of that. So feel free to look at any of those historical presentations or reach out to us separately. But they have been exhaustively discussed. So if you do have any further questions, but feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you everyone who is a panelist. And thank you all for joining us tonight. We know you all have a busy schedule and we don't want to take up too much more of your time, but please, as Diana said, as Chris said, as Tom said, please send us emails and also use the suggestion form that I've dropped the link in the chat below to continue speaking with us and continue coming to the Dance Loft events, because this can't happen without you all. And just keep coming, keep dancing, and we can't wait to continue doing more things like this in the future. Thank you all so much. Have a good night.
Good night. Bye-bye, everybody.